Hey, good evening. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for coming back and thank you for listening. I don't like how I'm talking right now. Anyway, today, here, we start Smoke Pit Fairy Tales 4. Chain smoke your problems away. Alright, thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you after the show.
Chain smoke your problems away. Smoke Pit Fairy Tales, Part 4, Chapter 1. Balls Out. The ball ended 8 hours prior. Cassandra Stockton ran her fingers through her bright orange bob cut. Sweat beaded on her brow, sticking her bangs to her forehead. She wiped the perspiration on her stomach. She had taken her jacket off earlier in the night, leaving her with only her trousers, shoes, and bra. Stockton looked down at the table, nudged her glasses to the proper spot in her face, and threw the sphere towards the plastic cups on the other side. The ball fell in. Stockton shot her hands in the air, screaming,
"Booyah!"
Then pointed to the man across the table.
"Drink, fucker!"
The man rolled his eyes and downed the beer in the cup. He slammed it back down and smiled.
Well, that's that, ain't it?
Looks like it.
The other man beside him grinned. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a thick wad of cash.
I don't want to take this back home.
Well, you'd better spend it quick. Shuttle leaves in 6 hours.
The man with the money looked over at Stockton.
You want to go gamble this away with me?
Stockton had her hands on her hips.
No thanks. I gotta get going and make sure my friends are alive.
The second man jerked his head back.
What? Is our money not good enough for you?
Stockton took a quick glance around the hotel room and shrugged.
No, it's not that. I seriously have to go and make sure my buddies haven't accidentally killed themselves.
The men grew angry. The first one jumped over the table, fist first at Stockton. She stepped to the side, caught him in a headlock, and squeezed until he stopped fighting. While she was still holding him, his friend lunged at them. She let him get close, kneed him in the stomach, and gave his throat 2 good stomps. Stockton dropped the man on top of his friend, threw on her jacket and neckerchief, grabbed her cover, and stumbled out the door. She walked down the street and lit a cigarette.
Hey, sailor. Thank you for your service.
A random pedestrian smiled as he passed her. She half smiled over a nod and took a deep hit. Stockton's face was heavy, and her vision burned. She fished her phone out of a pocket to check the time. 05:38. The sun would be up soon, and she'd been drinking for about 18 hours. She tried to wipe some of the ashes and spills off her uniform before deciding it could wait for the dry cleaner. Stockton stared at the red dust building alongside the buildings under construction. The city was only a decade old, as were most of the cities on Mars. She rolled her eyes, flicked her cigarette to the street, and made her way back to her hotel. Sergeant Edward Thatch Allensworth leaned over the balcony railing with a half-burnt cigarette burning in his hand. He was half-arrestant, tall, with orange hair, emerald green skin, blue eyes, and black brows. He didn't really know which of his parents he took after. They had both died on Earth during the early days of World War III, the last war ever fought on that planet. A war that was never ending. His adoptive mother had told him the only thing he'd gotten from his mother was her hair. The rest was all his father. Thatch had ditched his blues in favor of jeans and a t-shirt hours ago, before they ran into the bachelorette party. Before the gambling and rum, he felt the world spin around him and decided it was time for sleep. Knowing he was going to vomit, he decided to sleep in the tub. Thatch walked in and pulled the shower curtain open to find Corporal Chuck Royce, half naked and curled into a ball.
Chuck, get up.
Thatch ordered. Chuck opened his eyes with a grunt, looking up at Thatch and mumbled incoherently.
Chuck, I have to puke. If you don't get the fuck out of there right now, I'm doing it on you.
Chuck gave Thatch the finger. Thatch's blood boiled.
Oh, fuck you!
He stuck his fingers down his own throat and hot spew erupted from his mouth, right onto Chuck. Chuck squirmed in the tub.
The fuck, dude?
He tried to climb out, but Thatch's bile made the porcelain slick, and he couldn't get a hold of anything. Thatch finished puking and started to laugh.
This isn't funny, fucker.
Chuck barked. Thatch wiped the slobber from his face on one of the hotel towels.
I think it is.
He threw the towel on the ground and walked back out to the balcony. Chuck laid on the bottom of the tub. He used his foot to turn on the water and bathe. Chuck was thin, but not too short. He too was half-arrestant and had sandy blonde hair and brown eyes. The water coming from the shower head didn't help his mood. He grumbled to himself as he cleaned off Thatch's vomit. Thatch flopped down on a balcony chair next to Jorge McKenzie, another ginger.
What was all that?
McKenzie asked. Thatch pointed his thumb towards the bathroom as he lit a cigarette.
I was trying to sleep, but Chuck wouldn't get out of the shower.
McKenzie raised an eyebrow to Thatch.
So?
So I puked on him instead of down the drain.
You know you can yak in a toilet, right?
Fuck that, I wanted to sleep in the shower.
That's fucked up. I like it.
He took a swig of his beer. The balcony doors slid open and Stockton stepped out to join them.
Hey!
Sup, dude?
Just had to punch out a couple of dicks.
Punching dicks, huh? You're such a worthless slut.
I'm not the one that takes it in the ass.
Stockton jested back. McKenzie tipped his beer towards her with a smirk. Chuck made his way out to the balcony and shook his head.
You're still an asshole, Thatch.
Blow me.
So what's the deal with Mars Vegas?
McKenzie asked.
Huh?
It's such a lame name. I mean, it's like out of a bad science fiction movie. Like, instead of calling it New Vegas or Neo Vegas or just starting a new city and giving it a new name, they call it Mars Vegas. It's lazy, stupid, and cliche.
Chuck rolled his shoulders.
I don't know. I think it's a good time.
Oh, I'm having a good time, don't get me wrong, but the name is fucking lazy.
McKenzie finished his beer.
So, where are we going tomorrow?
Hell in a handbasket.
Thatch flicked the ash from his cigarette.
I'll lead the way. The boatman owes me a few favors.
So alcohol's the destination.
The answer to anything is yes, if you believe hard enough.
And anything is a dildo if you're brave enough.
Chuck squinted at McKenzie.
Why has everything got to be a sexual riddle with you?
Why you always gotta be naked when you're drunk?
Stockton pointed at Chuck. Chuck pondered the question for a minute before laughing.
Ghost rape?
Stockton winced.
Yeah, ghost rape. Was Shovelface the ghost raping you?
No, that's not fair at all, bringing her up.
She is such a slut.
Thatch interrupted the conversation.
Stockton, you fucked Smith 3 times before you knew what his name was. You're not in any position to call anyone a slut.
The group was silent for a second before they all erupted in laughter. Chuck violently shook his head and spat.
So, are we ready for this next cruise?
We are.
BHR.
The others yelled sarcastically.
I fucking hate that ship.
McKenzie complained. Thatch took another drag off his cigarette.
Yeah, but if it gets us out of Camp Castle for a bit, I don't mind space.
First Sergeant Aliris hates it, though. Remember last time we were in Artemis City on Luna and he just got drunk and stared at Earth for 3 days straight?
Yeah, but he was one of the first Marines to go to space. He lived on Earth until he was like 20.
Chuck defended their first sergeant.
Shit, he thought he was deploying to Luna for a year, then the Earth gets fucked up beyond all imagination and he never got to go home.
Yeah, that would suck.
Stockton sucked down another cigarette. Thatch looked at his watch.
All right, guys, I'm hitting the rack. I see you back on Castle on Tuesday.
They mumbled their goodbyes and parted ways for the night. Thatch woke up late Monday morning in his barracks room, back in Camp Castle. The battalion was on liberty until 0500 the next day. They were given a long weekend for the ball. He rubbed his eyes until the blur from his vision turned into sharpness. Thatch forced himself out of bed, ate a small bowl of rice he had in the refrigerator, downed a glass of water, and headed outside. Behind Thatch's barracks was a joint courtyard shared by the backs of buildings belonging to 3 other units. 3rd Battalion, 1st Marine stood to the north, 2-1 to the west, 1-1 to the east, and Camp Castle's headquarters battalion to the south. The courtyard was built for the sailors and Marines to entertain themselves while on base. A basketball and volleyball court stood on either side. A patio with 6 grills and a group of tables sat center around a large, round fire pit. Poured concrete benches rested under the trees by the entrances. There was no grass to be found, only red Martian dust and scattered bushes and trees. Thatch fished his cigarettes and lighter out of his pocket and flopped down on a bench. He burnt the end of his smoke and drug in deep. Halfway through his smoke, he heard someone walking up from behind. His head was heavy and his body still weak from drinking, but he turned to see a corporal with pouty lips, thick eyebrows, Mediterranean skin, and a thick but enamoring body. Her dark brunette hair was pulled back into a bun. Thatch knew immediately that she had to be from Headquarters Battalion. Females in combat roles were required to keep short hair so it could fit into their helmets. Her name tapes read Nayzk, and corporal chevrons were pinned to her collar. Thatch wondered why he'd never seen her around before. She wore the Martian red camouflage uniform. Its deep, rusty red complemented her skin tone. Thatch waved at the woman as she passed. She smiled at him and stopped.
You don't see too many Virescents around here.
Thatch grinned.
What are you talking about? I have 5 in my platoon.
Platoon, huh?
She raised an eyebrow in interest.
Who you with?
Thatch stuck his thumb towards his barracks.
India, 3-1.
The woman contemplated that for a moment.
I don't think I know anyone over there.
Do any of them know you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Thatch noticed she had a couple of books in her hand. One was a notebook, but the other was definitely a novel.
What you reading?
She looked at her book.
I've only just started it, but it's interesting so far. It's about an attorney representing a kid with cancer whose twin brother should be a good donor, but the insurance company won't pay for it.
The woman looked back at Thatch.
One of the lawyers gave it to me to read. I'd recommend it.
Thatch looked into her eyes. They were the color of the water when the North Ocean crashed on the rocks at Xantha Beach. He didn't have anything good to talk about, or really anything interesting he wanted to say. Thatch was never really inclined towards, nor any good at conversation, unless he'd been drinking or was with close friends. But he didn't want her to leave quickly, He said the first thing he could think of to keep her around.
So, what's working at Legal Lake?
She cocked her head and gave him a worried look.
How do you know that I worked in legal?
You're reading a legal thriller that a lawyer let you borrow. I was just guessing.
The woman let her guard back down and smacked herself on the forehead.
Yeah, duh. It's not bad. I fucking hate my sergeant. But what are you really going to do about that, right?
Well, not a lot, I guess.
She smiled.
Yeah. What are you up to today?
Nothing. Fighting a hangover. Sleeping.
A hangover on Monday, huh?
She shook her head with a judgmental look on her face.
Shame, shame.
Thatch held his shoulders up.
What?
Nothing.
I'm deploying on Wednesday. I'm allowed to drink before then.
Her eyes lit up.
Deploying, eh? Where are you going?
Yeah, just on ship. Go sail the stars for a bit. Maybe go fight some more Russians.
More Russians?
Yeah, I've been in a scrap or two.
He pulled out his phone, opened the calling app, and handed it to her.
I'll text you when I get back.
She smiled and punched her number in. He looked at his phone and read her name and number.
Samum Mezzalina Nayzk. Is that like Samum the sailor?
No, that was Sinbad. He was from Baghdad, I think.
Thatch finished his smoke and stood up.
All right. Well, it was nice to meet you, Samum. I'm gonna go back to sleep.
Samum smiled at Thatch with a wave.
Bye.
Thatch returned the wave and found his way back to his room. Falling back into his bed, he slammed into sleep before his head even hit the pillow. He wasn't out for more than 2 minutes before he was jolted awake by somebody falling onto him. He spun around in his bed, jolted from the sudden awakening. Stockton was lying on top of him.
Damn it, Stockton. What do you want?
I'm hungry.
You're always hungry. Maybe if you'd eat more than half a sandwich at a time, you wouldn't look like a fucking Holocaust survivor.
Thatch pushed her off of him. Stockton rolled over and sat on the floor with her eyes level with Thatch's sheets so she could look at him.
Do you want to grill something?
You can't do it by yourself?
I already put my car in storage, and I don't want to go to the PX for charcoal.
Fine.
He slid his feet to the floor.
Make me a drink. I'll be out there in a few minutes.
There you go.
Stockton rubbed Thatch's hair and went to mix him a rum and coke. Thatch got up. The two of them grabbed the little food and the coal they had left and headed to the grills in the courtyard. Neither of them had proper grilling utensils, and no one really took care of the courtyard area except for a general cleanup. Thatch shoveled out the old coals with a brush while Stockton lit it up. When it was clean enough, Thatch poured the rest of the coals in and doused them with lighter fluid. Stockton blew on the flames and got the fire hot, while Thatch rubbed the chicken down with spices and herbs. After a few minutes of letting the fire heat up and drinking the rum, Chuck walked down with the guitar case in his hand, flinging his head up.
Sup, dudes?
Thatch and Stockton waved. Chuck put the case on one of the tables and pulled out the 6-string. He took a minute to try to tune it by ear, and after he failed, he opened an app on his phone that would do it for him.
Thatch, we're taking our guitars on the float, right?
Hell yeah, man.
Thatch was feeling better now that he had alcohol back in his system.
So I've been thinking about a song idea.
Chuck plucked at the strings.
What's that?
You know how there was like all those old blues singers at the beginning of the last century who went down south and sold their souls to the devil?
Sure.
Well, what if we wrote a song about selling our soul to the devil, but it turns out that the devil was actually a recruiter and you only really sold your soul for 4 years?
So, your contract?
Yeah,
Thatch contemplated the idea.
That could be cool. You got any lyrics down yet?
not yet.
What about a riff?
Chuck shook his head.
We got time to work on it.
Wednesday morning rolled around. Sergeant Thatch Allensworth had already carried his sea bags across the street to the parade deck and grabbed his rifle from the armory. He stood in front of his squad, in his black, gray, and dark purple space camouflage uniform, watching his team leaders inspect the Marines' gear. Corporal McKenzie, Corporal Royce, and Corporal Capulet looked over everyone's equipment and gave Sergeant Allensworth a thumbs up when they were good. Thatch walked over to 1st Platoon's platoon sergeant, Staff Sergeant Duke.
First squad's good, Staff Sergeant.
The Marines who were married had their spouses close beside them for support. Corporal Capulet's wife, Sharn, sat behind him with a blanket wrapped over her head, scowling at the company. Joe Capulet was lanky but had a decent build. He held his arms around Sharn silently. Christina Akan, 2nd Squad Sergeant, gave her report to Duke and rejoined her wife. Akan was tall and fair, blue-eyed, and wore a medium pixie cut on her snowy white hair. She slung a rifle over her thick shoulders, wrapped her fingers around her wife's hand, and walked over to Thatch.
You ready to get back on the big deck?
Thatch rolled his eyes.
Nope.
Me either.
Thatch pulled a cigarette out and offered it to Akan, who accepted. Thatch lit both smokes.
I just want to do one pump on the small deck.
There's no room on those, though.
Akan exhaled, shaking her head in disagreement.
Yeah, but the Admiral and his goon squad don't live on them.
True.
Thatch flicked the ash off of his smoke.
We have different destroyers this float, right?
Yeah, the Alliance and the Vengeance. Well, I heard we got a sub, too.
We always have a sub.
Thatch mocked quotations with his fingers.
I've never seen it.
No one has. Those things are so cloaked God couldn't find them.
You don't think maybe it's a conspiracy? Like they just want us to think there's a subs.
Don't bust out your tinfoil hat too quick.
Thatch smirked. Chuck, Stockton, and McKenzie sat on the concrete with their backs propped up on their bags. McKenzie yawned and asked,
Do we know where we're making port?
Stockton shook her head.
Probably just fucking Luna again.
Lame. I've been to the Earth's moon 3 fucking times, but I've never been to ours.
Well, there's 3 of them here, so...
Stockton shrugged.
Yeah, but they brought one in from the outer solar system. It doesn't really count.
You're still bitching about not having ever been there. I think that means it counts.
Chuck rolled his eyes.
Why don't you just take a shuttle up there on leave sometime?
McKenzie offered a solution.
Because I'd rather spend my money getting drunk with you guys.
Aw,
Stockton cooed and wrapped her arms around Chuck.
I love you too.
Thanks, babe.
Chuck mumbled cynically. McKenzie rolled his eyes.
When are you two gonna just fucking get it over with?
Stockton and Chuck shrugged. Thatch walked back to his squad.
Hey, buses are gonna be here in 5. Get your shit together and be ready to move.
His Marines threw their bags on their backs and slung their rifles. When the vehicles arrived, the battalion loaded the gear onto the trucks and sat on the buses. One last head count was made, and they set off north towards Naval Station Glen. Thatch sat next to Akon for the ride. The trip from Camp Castle to Ennis Glen was only about an hour, depending on traffic. There were small towns outside of the bases, but between those, not much stood. Mars had only been inhabited for a couple of decades, and it still needed time to grow. Thatch looked out the window at the juvenile trees growing up on the plains. He turned his head to Akon.
You ever wonder what an old tree looks like?
Akon didn't even think about the question.
I've seen pictures on the internet.
Thatch had too, and in movies, but wondered.
You think we'll ever get to see an old tree?
You might. Fluorescents are supposed to fucking live forever.
I'm only half, though.
You got a 50-50 shot then.
I guess.
Now what I want to know is why we can't terraform Earth.
Isn't it because there's too much radiation?
There's radiation literally flowing out of the sun.
I think it's a different kind of radiation, though.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah, but...
His thoughts blanked.
Yeah, I don't know.
Akon had a habit of talking with her hands when she started getting excited.
All the old science books said it would take centuries to terraform a planet. And we did it with fluorescent technology in what, 5 years? Maybe 10? I think it's kind of stupid that we can't do it to Earth. Even if we have to burn the surface off.
That would solve some problems. Might stop the war.
The Russians are tired of living in colonies around Venus and never actually being outside. It's got to drive them fucking crazy. I don't blame them for wanting to conquer Mars. Hell, if I were in their situation, I'd want to too.
Thatch gave Akon a concerned look. Akon caught it and pardoned herself.
I don't mean I regret killing any of them.
Thatch raised an eyebrow at her.
We actually haven't done that in a while, have we?
Akon thought for a second, then slowly shook her head.
No. It's mostly been rescues or cordon and searches.
The ride to Naval Station Glen was long, but not quite boring. Most Marines slept. Others watched the scenery or talked. The buses made their way north and pulled into the docks at the spaceport. The battalion unloaded, held another formation, and filed up into the ships. Kilo and Weapons Company split up between the Alliance and Vengeance. Lima Company boarded the Ranger, and India Company and Headquarters loaded aboard the Bottomless Shard. Over the next few hours, the Marines unpacked their things in their berthing areas, put their weapons in the armory, and stood by to stand by. The small armada lifted from the port and ascended into the heavens, away from Mars.
All right, well, thanks for listening to Chapter 1 of Chain Smoke Your Problems Away. I know that it might have caught you off surprise, or you might be like, hey, yo, where are we going with this? But you know what? No spoilers. You can hang out. Or if you really want to know what happens and you don't want to wait for me to read it to you, you can just go buy the book and read it yourself. Or, you can get the war chest, which is the... well, I guess there's 2 war chests. One of them is the first 6 books of this series, and the second one is the second 6 books of these series, and they're in a custom painted ammo can with stickers and cards and patches and, all that kind of fun stuff. Just got a new line of postcards in, so that's been fun. New slaps, too. Also, there's a patch that comes in, a different patch for the first box and the second box. However, this is the original patch from way back in the day. I've only got a few of these left, and then once I'm done, that'll be a different patch from then on. So if you want one of the original, Smoke Pit Roundels, you might want to get one of the next 8 war chests. Or there's the war crate, which is, all the books and all the stuff, everything together. Anyway, also if you don't want to read them and you want to go a little bit ahead, I do put these chapters on Patreon as soon as I get done with them. As to where, over here we are going to be staying on the schedule. I think on Patreon I just uploaded chapter 15 of this book. And this book, and I know what you're thinking. Well, Tripp, that means you're almost done with this book because, you know, The Paragon of Man was only 17 chapters long. This one's 39. We're going to be doing this book until June. It's August. So buckle up, we're in for it. But anyway, I would like to thank everyone who's gotten a war chest and everyone who's following me on Patreon. Also, other new thing, should probably tell you about this. I forgot where I left off in the sentence, so sorry that we're sputtering. But I got a whole bunch of new prints in. So if you want to support the channel and get something for your wall, that's not going to be, you know, too expensive or anything, you know, you get some prints. This one looks so dark. It's not. Probably shouldn't even just show this to you. It looks good, though. It does in person. This one's a little brighter. This one is not book related, though. This is just of painting I did. But there's plenty of character art prints and scenes from the books. Although a lot of them are from, like, you know, this book. But, you know, we'll see how it goes. Or you'll see how it goes. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying here. I am very bad at marketing. But I do like these. Anyway, it would help out the channel if you get one of these, put them on your wall. I think I'm putting these up at 25 bucks each, and that's including shipping and all that. So, yeah. Also, with these, there's only 100 of each one of them. So after 100 of them go, that particular print won't be available anymore. Oy. So, yeah. Also, I have set a new goal for myself. Or maybe we'll see how things go. So, with this, Chain Smoke Your Problems Away, 39 chapters. It should be running until June, maybe May. I gotta do the math, but I think June. And then the book, Mourn the Liquid Dew of Youth, Chain Smoke Fairy, Mourn the Liquid Dew of Youth, Mourn the Liquid Dew of Youth, Smoke Pit Fairy Tales 5 is 19 chapters long, and it's about as, you know, long narratively as The Paragon of Man was, right? So that'll just be a few months. We'll be done with this one by next fall. However, here's my thing. And keep those in two in mind. Six Pistols and a Dagger. This is the sixth book. It's 31 chapters long. If at the end of airing Chain Smoke Your Problems Away on YouTube is done. So like in June when we do the last chapter of this and then we're about to dive into Smoke Pit Fairy Tales 5. If at that point I have 10,000 followers on YouTube, then when it comes time for Six Pistols and a Dagger, instead of doing it an episode a week, I will do an episode a day for whatever month this comes out in. That's my I don't want to say promise to myself or deal or whatever, but that's something, that's a goal I'm going to set forward, right? Like, hey, at this point I want this, and if I get that, then we can all do that. So I guess that's incentive to tell your friends to fucking follow. I guess I don't fucking know. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Who is in this episode? Oh, fuck, yeah, we got a whole bunch of shit going on. Also, I know you got questions about, you know, how this is being done. Again, if you've read these books, you know exactly why I did the narrative decision I did, and please do not spoil anything for anybody. And if you didn't, it'll make sense in about 2 years. Until then, enjoy the ride. But anyway, I got Chuck LaVoki as the narrator, Amy Bedell as Cassandra Stockton, Andrew Stockton as Chuck Royce. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna start this again. Narrating this, we got Chuck LaVoki. Playing Chuck Royce, we got Andrew Stockton. Playing Cassandra Stockton, we got Amy Bedell. Oh, God. Chuck is the person that Stockton... Wait, no. Chuck LaVoki, the human being in real life, is the person off of which Chuck Royce is based. And Stockton is the person off of which Cassandra Stockton's based. So I got two people playing characters that are in the same situation of themselves off of whom they were based, but they're not playing themselves, and I think that's funny. But anyway... We got Travis Weidemann. Oh, I'm sorry. And then also, like, Chuck LaVoki. Yeah, he played Doc and Fritz and a bunch of other people. So, returning character. Amy's new. Stockton's new. Travis Weidemann, who played the Fonz. He's back as Jorge McKenzie. Hollis Joe McCollum is playing Samum, and she played Ainsworth and the Victorville Woman and Satin. Diane Spencer, who gave us the fucking wonderful Penelope, or the wonderful Diane Spencer, who gave us Penelope. And Aya. And Samantha, she's back as Okan. Tyler Branch, new guy, he's here as the Rainer Pedestrian. Ryan History Daddy Day, who played Tom, and one of the bandits in the last book. He is back as one of the hotel guys. And Joe Carlson is back at... Wait, no, he's not. Joe Carlson wasn't here before. He's a new guy. He's got a few roles in this, though. I'm enjoying him, especially in the fucking editing room. But anyway, he's back as a guy, too. So, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And thanks to the cast. And thank you all for being here and listening. All right, I'm going to quit rambling. Going to go take a poop and then edit this shit. That did not sound right. All right, anyway, hey, see you next week. All right, bye.
Start off with a burp.
This is Hotel Man 1. There's no chapters, it just says Hotel Man 1, so it's just Hotel Man 1.
We are recording. We're live. This is Smokepit Fairy Tales Part 4. It's going to be really funny hearing.
I gave you a third one that time because I'm not quite sure if my finger hit this fucking clothes hanger. That's a word. The first time I did that, so you get an extra. There you go.
The sun would be up soon, and she'd be drinking. Mess it up. Words are hard. All right.
First Sergeant Illyris hates it, though. Remember that time we were in Artemis City on Luna and he just got drunk and stared at Earth for 3 days?
Shut up so I can listen to you. All right, I'll give it another shot.
First Sergeant Illyris hates it, though. Remember last time we were in Artemis City on Luna and he just got drunk and stared at Earth for 3 I'll be right back. I'm too drunk for this. I'm gonna go stare at Earth for 3 days straight. Now I can fucking say it. What the fuck?
He threw the towel on the ground. Growled. I'm an adult! I don't need a towel! Plenty of bloopers here. Chuck was thin, but not too short. He, too, was half arrestant and had sandy blonde hair and brown eyes. Brown eyes. His eyes were browned. Like they've been brown, like you've been cooking them too long.
Because I'd rather spend my money on getting drunk with you? Ugh, fuck me.
Thatch flopped down on a balcony chair next to Jorge McKenzie. Jorge! Hey, I've just been instructed by the author to stop saying cigarette like I'm gay. Hey, man, I'm sucking on it, am I not? All right, we'll try the line again.
Just had to... I can't even do this dick thing again. So much dick.
I'm going to burst out laughing again. I'm not going to hate doing that. Why am I recording? Why did I hit record before I was ready? Was the line good? All right, you're a piece of shit. After a few minutes of letting the fire heat up and drinking the rum, Chalk walked down. Chalk. It's my own name! Ah! Jesus, all right. I don't know. You could really fuck up anything. All right.
Just says Stockton and the men get into a fight, and so... Ow! That doesn't sound like punching, does it? Oh, well, that's blooper reel. That was me punching my, open palm. Which actually made my hands hurt a bit, so I kind of regret doing that. Because it probably sounded like I was wanking.
That sat. We fucking did it! Alright, that was chapter 1 of Chuck narrating this fucking funky bull shrimp. Killing it. Alright, well, we'll see how Tripp wants to chop that up. And see what's good. Gonna cut the recording here. Maybe get one last burp in for good measure. Nailed it! Click.